Today we're going to be talking about the painting with paper collage technique. I am choosing as my source material one of my favorite paintings of all times by Henri Matisse called The Goldfish. I cannot get enough of looking at their ridiculous little faces. I also really love the colors in this piece, and I love just the lush foliage and flowers. This is my finished collage. I use the term painting with paper because, unlike other forms of collage, I'm not really looking for pictures that I'm going to cut out and keep intact. I'm looking for colors and textures that I can create shapes with to make my image. So most everything in this image didn't start out as a fish or a leaf or a tabletop. They started out as other things, and I just use the colors and textures to create my shapes. So I'm going to start with just a cereal box. I love to start in my recycling bin as a source for my collages. I did an underdrawing that roughs out basically what that Matisse painting looks like, and then I'm going to start measuring pieces and gluing them down. I like to use a brush to spread the glue on. Not my favorite brush, but one that's a little bit ratty, and I make sure that I wash it regularly while I'm working. As I work, I just measure as I go, and then I cut, I make sure it fits, and then I glue it down. Thinking mostly of the background colors to start with, and I'm going to get the big blocks of color down first. I'm going to rinse my brush off. I'm using a brush with my glue, and just to make sure the glue does not dry on my brush. You can see that I'm just testing this piece and cutting it and making sure that it fits in that space. Then I'm going to glue it down. As I work on the pieces for the actual goldfish bowl, I am using my hands to figure out exactly what shape I want these pieces to be. I found some cool textured green paper that I want to use for this, and I'm just trimming it to fit. I'm using a separate sheet of paper to do my gluing and brushing on, so that way I can get that piece of paper messy and throw it away when I'm done. Once I'm happy with the shape of the goldfish bowl, I'm going to put those little pebble textures that you see in the bottom of the bowl. I'm going to cut a bunch of little yellow dots and pebble shapes. Further along, I've added a lot more black background, and I am now trying to add some foliage. I found some really great greens in a National Geographic and some great blacks, so I'm going to be cutting those out and making them fit to create that lush black and green background that we see in the painting. I'm gonna try out this lime green paper that I love. I cut it out. I realize it's too bright, so I find something a little bit like less intense for my image and try this one on. I think I like it. I'm gonna leave it there. I'm gonna glue it down. Further ahead, I've cut out some leaves, and I'm gonna do some detailed cutting of this foliage that I found that I think is gonna go perfect in the bottom right-hand corner. Notice that the scissors are basically staying still, and I'm turning the paper in order to get the shapes that I want. The same turquoise paper that I used for the chair to create the table legs, because I noticed in the painting they're basically the same color. I'm using a pointy little tool to get those little pieces into place. At this point, I have got a lot more of the black and green background done, and I'm going to start working on the foliage and flowers for the upper right hand corner. I pulled back some of that black paper and I'm trimming the edges as I go, laying the different layers on and gluing them down. At this point now, I have cut out leaf shapes and I've cut out flower shapes, and I'm going to attach them to the top surface. You notice that I'm going from big areas to smaller little details as I work. I'm moving down to the bottom left corner to work on the chair. I've cut out a line to create that stripe, and I've cut out a bunch of little black shapes so that I can make the chair look like it's actually see-through, the same color as the background. I've created little triangles and little teardrop shapes to mimic the effect of a woven chair. Now I am laying down my little goldfish. This is, I think, the most important part for me, is trying to figure out the right shapes and make sure that they are all organized together. And I'm going to lay in the goldfish, and then I'm going to lay in the reflection that is on the top of the water. Rather than trying to get each shape perfect, I am breaking them into smaller pieces, so starting with an oval, then putting the fins on later. My last layer is going to be adding the house plants that are sitting on the table. So I've cut out the shapes I think I like. Now I'm going to figure out layer by layer. I'm going to lay down the little containers for the plants, glue them down, and then I'm going to lay the leaves in. At this point, I think my work is basically done. I'm going to take a pen that contrasts against the background, in this case, a bright pink pen. I'm going to sign my artist signature in the corner, and I'm going to call it done.